It is an honor to be part of this great series of knowledge sharing. I hope that at the end of this session, we will have some takeaways. And thank you very much for the nice introductory words. Let me now try to live up to that those statements. So imagine most of agile transformations fail. Let me just start from this statement to set the stage for us. With all these years of practice, still transformation, they keep failing. If most agile transformation failed, we should know what are the reasons, right? And can we address these reasons? And so these are some of the thoughts that I thought I will share with you. It's not about enlightening anyone. Again, thank you very much, Snehal, but it's just to bring up some discussions that hopefully I will benefit more than probably you will benefit. So with this slide, my intention is not to flood you with evidences of failure, but certainly I wanted to share with you some of them just to set the stage. I purposefully took evidences from rather ends of spectrums, like dramatically distinct sources. For example, on one hand, McKinsey, a global prestigious consulting company, which is deeply rooted in research, and I have high respect for them, for their publications. On the other hand, a boutique local consulting company, or on one hand, a university renowned professors that has chair in the field. On the other hand, just an individuals with no formal academic designation, but a good consulting. And also to add to representation of these samples or evidences, also took a technology company. So in short, various studies from academics, consultants, analysts, technology, they all indicate a high percentage of failure. And by failure, I mean any deviation from what it was expected to deliver or from what was the original or initial objectives. That's basically is regarded as a failure. So one important clarification, I am not talking about implementing an agile framework just to replace a traditional framework or waterfall, and that's it. I'm talking about enterprise agile transformation. That means implementing agile practice while transforming the whole enterprise for something better, for something more important. Otherwise, simply implementing a new framework would succeed in the hands of any average agile coach. I have no doubt that any average agile coach will be able to come and implement the agile framework and replace the old way of working. So enterprise agile transformation is rather part of a wider family of enterprise transformation. And the word transformation means a fundamental change, and I use it with intention and purpose. It's a big capital letters. And that's true. You can bring a new practice, a new way of working and implement it in a vacuum, right? You implement it in an enterprise, a company, government agency, educational institution, just an enterprise. Only in this sense, we are facing rather a daunting task or a challenging task, which I am referring to as enterprise agile transformation. Otherwise, as I said, merely implementing an agile framework to replace waterfall is not a big challenge with the current level of knowledge experience that we have. So a natural question would be, what has been done with all these studies and evidences or failures? So that will be in the next slide. But prior to that, I want to say that we, in this session or in this webinar, I am sharing with you an approach to see how we can avoid to not be one of those 70% or one of those even 80% in other studies, or one of those 10 reasons that we fail. So my intention in this session is to share with you how we can avoid those 70%. So what did we learn from these evidences? Well, first of all, I must say that further studies are done or has been done. It's an ongoing process to find the reasons and the root causes that they cause the failure. I must say that a great amount of knowledge is already existing in this regard. Many great people, they contributed. Here in this slide, I'm sharing some of the ones that often you will see recurring in many of these studies that I showed in previous slides, just a few of them. So some that, in my humble opinion, has the 80-20 effect. The big ones are presented or included in this slide. Although all listed are vital for success of an agile transformation or a fundamental change, I underline a few that stands out even more. Like imagine improper training, copy pasting, lack of shared objectives, lack of a system approach, lack of looking at an agile transformation through holistic lenses, lack of having a transformation competency or office or body that does all the work, or engaging the entire organization. So these are all important things that we need to take into consideration. So in the remainder of my conversation with you, I will introduce an approach that I develop and I try to codify and implement these components in order to increase success of future enterprise agile transformation. Although I will use the word I, but in fact, you can imagine that knowledge of this type is always a team contribution and teamwork. In each of the following slides, you can imagine inputs of my colleagues and people that I work together, people that were either my mentors or I was mentor for them. Doesn't matter, just collaboration. So let's dive into the core of my presentation. But first, I want to share one informative slide. And this is a good slide. Again, if you look for the definition of agility, probably you will find hundreds, if not more. I like this one very much. Just pay attention here. Agility is a rapid whole body. Look, whole body. Rapid means quick, nimble, agile, whole body movement with change of velocity or direction in response to a stimulus. It's a beautiful slide. Okay, perfect. So it seems like I've been talking so far without sharing with you my slides. That's the slides that I've been talking about. This is an agile definition, and prior to that, I was talking about, this was the slides that I started with. Evidences of failure from different sources, from McKinsey to small boutique consulting, from a renowned professor to individual consultants to technology. So all this says that there is 70 and 70+% of failure. There are 10 reasons, and here why most agile transformation fail, etc. So these are the mostly repeated or mostly seen reasons for failure in these studies, in these basically reports or research works, like improper training, copy pasting, by the way, is a very bad thing. Not having a shared set of objectives or lack of system approach, missing holistical approach, not having a body or transformation office that is implementing, not engaging the entire enterprise. So before I dive into the approach that I developed, I would like to share with you this one definition of agility. This is a whole body. And also I like in this McKinsey understanding of enterprise agility that rewire all parts, like bring that system. You see that you sense that system rewire all parts. That's strategy, structure, processes, people, and technology all together. So making sure that everything is working here. And okay, perfect. So moving to the main or to the core of this webinar. That's the approach. So from this point onward, you can imagine that these are years of over 10 years of experience, both from academia, from research and application and industry that been codified. But majority of what I'm sharing here is coming from one major agile implementation, although the underlying knowledge goes into 10 years, but the majority of the artifacts that I'm sharing is coming from one major implementation. So here we go. My approach towards enterprise agile transformation. You recall from that list of reasons for failures, the lack of shared objectives, or directions, or purpose, or some other things. Let's address them here in this approach. So besides, if a transformation has no objectives, then against what we will be measuring success or lack of success. So let's start from that objectives first. So I adopted this Toyota improvement kata and designed this very simple but powerful three-step model. Step one, what outcomes or objectives we want to achieve. Let's be clear about that with the organization. What is that future state that we want for the enterprise? Remember, we will fail if we merely copy and paste someone else's transformation. That was one of the reasons. So this is exactly safeguarding you. Let's create your own objectives and outcomes that is dear and relevant to your enterprise and your organization. It could be, for example, I will give you some example. That's step number one. Then you move to step number two. Let's see how far we are from that directions or from that ideal or desired future state. How far we are. What is our current state in relation to those outcomes? Again, use whatever techniques and methods you want to use. For me, for example, one favorite tool is organizational modeling. Of course, value stream mapping, baseline assessment, all these could be used, but survey, you can use survey tools against those outcomes that we identified in step one to see how far we are. It is okay if step two generates input for step one and vice versa, or you just repeat it. So again, some examples of the step one could be that we are looking for enterprise outcomes such as to become an innovative company, more employees engagement, speed to market, response to changes, etc. And the current state will be some organizational models, again, surveys, whatever. That's absolutely you cannot copy paste somebody else here. But important thing is that you have to understand what is that current state. And then step three. Here is where the transformation engine needs to be built and set into motion. Here is where I'm talking about the systems approach that we develop. Here is where I'm building a unique transformation plan. That is all happening here. And that circular nature or repetitive nature is illustrated here by this arrowheads. That is enterprise agile transformation is a circular, iterative, incremental process during which you build your transformation approach, your transformation roadmap, change management, communication, identify obstacles, building guiding coalition, etc. So now, before going to this step three, which is the main focus of this webinar, let me share how step one was done in one major transformation, just to share how we implemented. By the way, as you are going through this, you are operating the business in the new way. So you are interviewing the new way of operation into your enterprise. So let me first show you how we did in one organization this step one. So you recall the slide with failure reasons. It's like this lack of engaging the entire enterprise or lack of shared objective. So what I did, I invited a few dozens of people from individual contributors to vice presidents of that company. That will include managers, directors, senior directors. That will include product owners, product managers, scrum masters, coaches, release training engineers as well. So at least some 4 to 6 vice presidents, they participated. A great representation of the entire system, from operation to sales, marketing, product, service, and of course IT, were accomplished. So we asked the participant a single question. Tell us your top level of outcomes you expect from the company's enterprise agile transformation. Like in your eyes, what you expect, what outcome you expect. So we asked the participant that's one single question, and the slides basically shows a real screenshot of the Miro board. I'm not sure if it was the final or still the work was in progress, but this is a real screenshot. You can see the many post-it notes on the board. Why we did this? Remember, there is a great statement, one of the 14 principles, but by Dr. Deming, and he says a transformation is everybody's job. So if so, and if you genuinely believe in it, then you have to capture everybody's voice as well, everybody's desire, everybody's perspective. Furthermore, I have deep roots in systems engineering, and I believe it's very important to have different perspective. So here is what we got. So this is a screenshot of that exercise for the step one. And again, what you see on the right side, it's not intended for reading. It's just to tell you the story of how that first slide and the first step was accomplished. All the desired outcomes were grouped into 5 major teams. Once we group them, we ask the same participants to vote on them. You can see the numbers against each of these votes, like, for example, strategy and execution alignment was given 36 versus okay, perfect. So I'm just, when I make a pause, I'm also reading the chat room. So I don't miss any questions. So, for example, organizational learning was given 10. So the right slide is again not for reading, but on the left side, you see the same labels. It's the same labels also on the right. So we group them. On the left side, you see them, and then we rank them. Now that we know what outcomes are expected to achieve, now we can build that system whose product or function is what we want, to achieve those outcomes. This information is important because this will inform us in our agile transformation. I'm not saying you must do this, and I'm also not saying this is easy step to do. Frankly, we did this already few months or many months into our agile implementation. But frankly, prior to that, merely we replaced traditional way of working by agile practice. The true transformation happens from this point onward when you know. So if I may quickly go to this previous, remember that step one is set the direction, set vision, set objectives. And then step two is, again, this is based on Toyota improvement kata. A practice, a techniques, and approach that been, tested for many years, for many decades, I must tell you. And step one gives you that future state. Step two says how far we are. And step 3 is you are basically transformational journey, step by step, increment by increment, iteration by iteration journey from current state to the future state. So as I said, step 1, we basically did it in the following manner, just inviting people participate from individual contributors to vice presidents. We settled down on these 5 major outcomes that we wanted to see. Now, to make that step 3, which is the transformational process, which is a system-based, you remember from the title of the presentation, it's Enterprise Agile Enterprise Transformation using system approach. Let me quickly refresh us with what is our understanding of a system. Again, the intention is not to read this entire slide. I just, again, having an academic background, I thought I will bring rather some multiple definitions to not just base it on one single, to see similarities. In this definition, what you see is there is a whole, and that whole consists of elements, and these elements collaborate, they cooperate. If they do not cooperate, they say, look how nicely Dr. Deming says, if not cooperating, then they will destroy the system. If one component is just becoming selfish, only taking care of that component, then it destroys. Like imagine if this is all about training. So all the resources are allocated to training, but there is no implementation, or it's about implementation, and nobody being trained. So these are components. So nice definitions here. They have quite similarity with each other, but they all is basically, so basically this illustration is kind of a nice summary of those definitions. And this illustration is based on Mario Bunge, a philosopher who gave one of the greatest definitions to systems, that the system has composition. You see these elements are elements of the system. It has structure through these links. It has a boundary. It has a product to deliver. So that's a nice definition. So that was the driver for us to develop this enterprise agile transformation approach and call it a systems approach. So any of these slides, whenever there's a question, we can go back and forth. So in the interest of time, I'm trying to get to the main part, which is basically coming. This is the main slides that I'm sharing with you. So we labeled our product that let's put together a system, and that system gives us a product, and that product is, let's say, that function is to our enterprise agility, and with that agility, we are trying to achieve certain outcomes that we already defined. Remember that the lenses today I am putting is the lenses of agile transformation. You can basically apply it to any other transformation. Like if you could say that can I basically use digital transformation, business transformation? By all means, obviously you have to develop that unique way. So we used here agile as the means or the vehicles or the way to get the organization ready for better outcomes, for that future state of the enterprise. We certainly emphasize on human centricity. So let's say if enterprise agility is that outcome or that product that we want, and that product will be helping us with achieving the outcomes, what are those components of the system? So we again went through the strategies, through the reasons for the failures, through the remedies that can safeguard you against those failures. And we came up that leading was absolutely mentioned. Take almost any report on failed transformation, leading is mentioned, that lack of leadership or unpreparedness of the leadership. So we thought that way of leading will be absolutely one of the components that enables enterprise agility to achieve the goals that we set. In this regard, obviously, setting a vision, strategy, leadership agility, execution, alignment, and also an enterprise transformation office. You remember in the first slide, reasons for failure. One of the reasons was lack of a body or a center that will take care of the transformation and lead that. Next, we immediately thought that knowledge and that philosophy, that paradigm, principles are absolutely, that mindset. Collectively, if you see way of thinking, like Agile Manifesto, Agile principles, and also principles that are coming from individual frameworks. Not only we have Agile Manifesto and those 12 principles, but also if you take this framework, for example, SAFe has 10 principles, and other frameworks, they also have further values and principles. These are theories, like, for example, enterprise ontology or system mindset. These are collectively making the way of thinking. This is also an absolute component that you must have. Furthermore, way of working. So fine, we have a great leadership. Now we have the component of thinking. We know like the principles, mindset, etc. Now, what is that operating model? How we operate? And that is coming from way of working. This is primarily coming from framework. Like if it is Scrum framework, it will provide you with some operating notion. If it is SAFe, it gives you an operating. So that's a way of working, and also many other great frameworks, and whether it's a team level frameworks or whether these are scaled frameworks, and also technical excellence. I will talk about these methods, these components shortly. And then we also identified that one of the reasons for failure is that the system doesn't have learning, like how we learn, how we teach. Like when we say that you are not project manager anymore, you will be Scrum Master. What does it mean for a Scrum Master? What are the roles, responsibilities? What is this new behavior? What is the new terminologies, the new notions, concept? Obviously, this is all about way of learning, new skills that I need, innovation and improvements, etc. We defined it as a way of working, and then we immediately realized that there is no enterprise agile transformation, at least not that I have seen, that was not supported by a great tool. Tool is a must-have. You can't do it without, so we call this way of supporting. It's not just about the tool, it's the overall environment, technology, metrics, analytics, data analytics, working environment, all the things that will support your operation, support your collaboration, support your transparency, managing artifacts. That we identified as way of supporting. And then you remember that you are talking about fundamental change. Fundamental change means that you have to reorganize. You have to come with the new way. So the new practice cannot be applied to old structure and old organization. Good luck if you can do it. Maybe if you do it, you will end up on that side of the 70%. But if you want to be on this side of the 70%, then you have to take care of the organizational design, redesign. Again, here system thinking is coming because organization is a system, and various system mapping will be here relevant, and also maybe moving from project orientation to you are organizing more like product oriented type of organization. So we define this as a way of organization or organizing. And finally, remember that lack of management. Somebody has to manage all this one, like OCM. Remember in that slide of failures, OCM was very clearly mentioned. Lack of communications, lack of change management, and obviously here again that enterprise transformation office will be also having one leg on the leadership, which is on the far left, and one leg here on the right side. So again, I may not mention this at the very beginning, that there is a very great research work done by McKinsey, and this is again the phrase that I think this is approximately that: put all on the table. So that phrase of put all on the table when you are transforming, that is that you include all the things that needed for the transformation. You can. So these 7 ways of mastering or preparing your organization for transformation is basically, it's not like sequence that you do this and then move this. Think of it like 10 slices of moving horizontally. Like imagine with each iteration, by iteration, I mean this cycle. You see, remember, this is Enterprise Agile Transformation goes in a circular way. With each repetition, you are making one horizontal slice and next slice and next slice. And also remember that each of these components will have different weights at different stages. And they will be regarded with a different level of attention depending on at which stage you are. If you do not look at them as one holistic system, guess what happened? That Dr. Deming says that the components will start destroying each other. And I have seen organizations that they either put too much emphasis on training, but forgot the practice itself. Like you are training people and there is no implementation of the framework in place. There is no tool set up for them, and they are still using some Excel sheet and Word document for keeping their backlog items and products. Often there are multiple copies and sharing information, etc. So these are the components that you must balance in a very balanced way, horizontally, increment by increment. You are implementing and you are using them. I'm not going into each of these components, but certainly my heart is telling me to share a couple of them with you. For example, when it comes to way of working, we presented the organization, we presented them with a variety of frameworks available, from team level frameworks, particularly Scrum and Kanban, but Scrum was obviously most popular and we used it quite. And when we moved to the scaled frameworks, the organizational decision was to implement or adopt SAFe, and obviously technical excellence also, like DevOps, TDD, BDD. TDD stands for test-driven development, BDD stands for behavior-driven development. So where I put these red boxes means that we apply them, we implemented them. So that defines one of the components of that system. That systems that collectively gets you to enterprise agility. One of them was way of working. So we based our way of working on certain practices, and these operations or processes came from these frameworks. Way of learning. So I'm just touching on maybe 2 or 3 of these components of this systems that we develop. So way of learning. Remember that this is a busy slide, no intention to read it. I've just used it as a background so I can talk based. So remember that one of the severe mistakes that I have seen is not enough training. You remember that improper training. You cannot expect that an organization is moving from one way of working to a different way of working, from one set of techniques to another set of techniques, from one culture to another culture, but you think that they will handle it. You think that some magic will happen and people will figure out. That magic will only happen if it takes you to that side of the 70%. So me, in addition being a consultant, I'm a professor. I know the power and importance of knowledge and training. So just to throw a new way of working on your organization, that magic will not happen. Yes, you have to train, you have to educate, you have to equip your organization and its employees with new knowledge, skills, terminologies, notions, definitions, vocabularies, all these things. You must teach them. So we developed, arguably we developed one of the most comprehensive corporate training as part of our agile transformation. What you see here is these are like just two categories: short training and also standard certification training. And you also see it like hours, like how many hours will they spend, etc. And by the way, here you also see Jile, which is the proud sponsor of this presentation. Jile was we conducted, but that was in a separate engagement. That was in a separate engagement prior to this engagement. We had a full training of Jile, and we had a Jile teams that came and demonstrated and helped, and we had application of the Jile for the launching of the art, for execution of the art, etc. But that was separate. But you see the training is from tools to framework to organizational design to PI simulation. Again, we adopted SAFe, and this PI is coming from SAFe. Customer centricity, design thinking, and obviously these are the standard. So one is open for all. And so, again, just to share with you what is behind these components that I call like a system approach. So let me also share way of supporting. Again, tools are central to the success of agile transformation. I can imagine in today's enterprise, I can imagine that any enterprise transformation will succeed in any way except that is based on right and potential and rich set of features tools. So we did tools that like provide you end-to-end support, like without exiting the tool. Often you have to exit the tool, then another tool, then all these plugins, etc. So at least I have end-to-end experience with the TCS Jile tools. That experience I have firsthand. So way of supporting is about tools. Great tools coming from different vendors. You can see here the list. And so these are the enterprise agile planning tools. We educate them, we introduce them. And there is a specific activity. So like for example, Easy Retro, a fun retrospective. Meros that we use for collaboration, whiteboarding, ideas, brainstorming, planning, etc. So again, any tools that you see here, the reason they are here either because we had it in the enterprise or I personally have experience of it. It's not comprehensive, far not comprehensive. The reason these tools are here is because it was already existing in the, or implemented in the enterprise, or I had personal experience so I could speak and talk to them. So now basically kind of summarizing. Those 7 ways are the 7 components that collectively makes this system approach towards agile enterprise transformation. As I said, slice by slice horizontally. You just repeat it, and this is a journey that if it's done properly, this facilitates a cultural transformation, and that will help you with the outcomes that you defined. Again, these are sample. In your organization case, you might have these enterprise outcomes could be engagement, engaged and happy employees, delighted and loyal customers, psychological safety, innovation, speed and quality, etc. So you basically, whatever outcomes you do, the vehicle or the means that we designed in this research work and also applied work is that enterprise agility, how enterprise agility can help you. Like enterprise agility is not the goal itself, but how we can use this agility and agile transformation to get better outcomes and better. Again, you remember that we said lack of a authoritative body that can manage and lead all this is absolutely recipe for failure. So enterprise agile transformation, this is the blueprint that I developed and presented to in organizations that went through a very comprehensive agile implementation. And as I say, they adopted SAFe as an implementation. So this was a blueprint that you should, when you are implementing multi-million, multi-years of initiatives, then there should be a body and we'll call it whatever. You can call it Agile Transformation Office, call it whatever. So let's say I just call it the Enterprise Transformation Office, but it's about the body, a body that is comprised of executive levels, strategic levels, tactical levels. In each of them, they have distinct focus. Your management, value management office, and your coaching teams, etc. So that's a blueprint that I designed and developed for to become that body that is developing. Again, this was a long process. This all what I'm presenting is implemented. So all what I'm talking about that system approach, the 7 components or 7 ways. So again, this is not for reading. It's just to give you how we build our roadmap. Again, tools is absolutely instrumental to build your roadmap, to measure it, metrics, reporting. So this was the roadmap for 2022. And obviously prior to that, we had the 2021 roadmap. You see this text signs, the check signs means that, look here, we had formation of LACE, we had to publish the roadmap, we launched our first art in the second quarter of year 2, and then art the preparation, and then we launched art 1 and art 2, and then we tried. So all the things that we had on roadmap, except for this one, we basically accomplished. And then when we went to the next year, to the next 12 months of the journey, again, we had these roadmaps. So what was documented was up to the end of the 2022. And maybe shortly also into the second quarter of 2022. Beyond that, we did not document it. So this is the roadmap. And with that, I am basically closing this presentation. So what I tried in this presentation is to present and share with you an approach. I am not claiming this is the approach. Nor I'm saying that this is an approach. It's obviously subject to how to say proof of concept. Being a consultant, I have applied this to multiple engagements. It's evolving. What I do believe is that by having a system approach and identifying what components are vital to your transformation and put them into a systemic relationship, and what weight they should have, when they should be introduced, I think that will improve the success of your agile transformation. And I must tell you that while I'm absolutely not claiming that this is the best way, I can assure you that this is based on a rich body of knowledge and practice. And it was not like God's feeling. It was based on thorough study of existing knowledge to put this together. I think the gem or the essence of what I presented to you, the essence of this or the takeaway you can find in this slide and this slide. In this slide, this line, what you see is let us an organization decide where we want to go. What ideal state or ideal culture we want. Let's list them. Let's formulate them. What is that ideal state for us? Let's say innovative company, fine. Speed to market, what is that one? So you define this part, and then you define where we are in relation to that. Shall we do our organizational modeling, value stream mapping, some sort of baseline, maybe some even survey employees that, hey, how do you feel on a scale of 1 to 10, your engagement? How is our speed to market? How long it takes for a new product from ideation to delivery? And by these two, then you start putting together your powerful transformation engine. And that is a system approach. This is where you put all the components that you think are important and vital, and there is a relationship, and you have control over those components, that if these components work smoothly together with each other, this will, with each iteration, will take you closer and closer to that ideal state. Again, this is more of a journey rather than, so I would say that a good takeaway from this presentation is this slide, and obviously this slide. This is a system approach. This is the products that we want, because this product we will use in order to get to that, to the outcomes. That's our agility. And for this product or for this function to get realized, we definitely need to have these components in place. A new way of working, a new way of leading, a new way of organizing, a new way of managing. All these collectively will result into this product or function.
Thank you, Dr. Joseph, for an intriguing session. I would like to thank all the attendees for joining us for this enterprise agility session. I would like to request all the attendees to stay tuned for upcoming sessions that we have. We have planned quite a few interesting topics coming your way. So I would like to again thank Dr. Joseph Barjis for this wonderful session today. And thank you so much, Dr. Joseph, and all the attendees. Thanks for attending.
And also, I would like to thank you for this platform, for this opportunity. And I must tell you that you guys are developing a great tool. And I'm not saying because this is a sponsored event, because I use this tool. And that's exactly one of the components for success. Without a tool that provides you rich set of features, that will be very difficult. Thank you very much for that.
Thank you so much, everybody. Stay tuned for upcoming sessions. Thanks a lot.